drug addiction sends 4 lives into a tragic downward spiral. Special guest Samantha Noah joins us to talk about Strings of Sorrow, what Jareth the Goblin King would have wanted from Marion, and the one way Jared Leto didn't go full method for this role. Then we find out if Requiem for a Dream stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says Gladiator with the glut. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Test of Time. I'm James Brief, and joining me, as always, for the 485th time is my buddy and pal and the director of this podcast, Alan Noah.
And joining both of us for what seems like the 485th time, at least this year, is my sister, Samantha Noah.
Hi, well, thank you. What a warm welcome back.
We have had you on the show a lot.
It's been a lot lately.
This year, this is the third time in 2025.
Yes.
It was American Psycho, Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird, and now Requiem for a Dream. You know what all three of those movies have in common?
Nothing.
Jared Leto.
No.
Jared Leto plays the back half of Snuffleupagus.
Got it. 2 out of 3, though.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
2 out of the 3. Well, welcome back to the show, Sam.
Well, thank you so much for your gracious welcome.
You are graciously welcomed. So, Requiem for a Dream. This was a movie that you wanted to talk about. Why? What's your background with this movie?
I do like this movie. I think it's important.
Okay.
And as we delve into it, I can explain why, but I'm wondering if you guys agree with the message that it is important.
I definitely get that. I mean, I think that as I have kids in middle school and high school, and they go through the health class stuff of don't do drugs, don't drink, don't have unprotected sex, there are ways that you can drive home those messages that are more effective than others. And look, we were all kids once, and we all had those health teachers who wagged their fingers at us and told us what to do and what not to do. And sometimes just a teacher wagging a finger is enough for some kids. For other kids, that is not an effective way to deliver a say no to drugs message. I feel like a movie like this would be a effective way to get kids to never want to touch heroin.
I thought that also, that this should be like required viewing in high school at some point. But then I was thinking about the permission slip given what the movie was or was not rated.
Right, all right, because it was NC-17.
It was. And I think ultimately it came out without a rating.
Right. There was a home edition, I think, for Blockbuster that, was an R-rated version because otherwise they wouldn't carry it. But yes, in theaters, it didn't have a rating.
Which tells you all you need to know.
Right. And so, James, in the run-up to this episode, you had expressed some trepidation about watching this movie. You were not looking forward to this. So, I guess, sorry, because you watched it. But I hope it wasn't as horrible as you were imagining it to be.
I was a little bit reserved about this film because I had heard about this film, just people in Reddit posts about what's a bad thing that happens to characters. And, they talk about people at the end of maybe Schwarzenegger films or the good one-liner that he says before them or a pretty sick death of the bad guy at the end of RoboCop. And then a lot of times people will talk about, and what happens to Jennifer Connelly at the end of Requiem for a Dream. And I get hints about what it is, and it's something sexual and something I know the movie's about drugs, and I just know it's kind of depressing. Darren Aronofsky doesn't have the biggest reputation for happy, uplifting films, so it was just one of those, human centipede, hostile torture porn kind of films. I was like, nah, I'm good. I really don't want to watch this.
I understand. I don't like the scary movies that you were describing, like the torture porn, but I don't view this as that at all. Because again, the message I think is so important that there's a reason for everything that happens to these people. It's not just that, they ended up in the wrong place in the wrong country and now they're going to be tortured for the next 90 hours. There's definitely more of an important message across the board, I think.
That's fair. Well, James, why don't you give our listeners a recap of what the movie's about?
This movie is about Harry Goldfarb, a heroin addict living in Brooklyn. He and his friend Tyrone start dealing the drugs so that they can become financially independent and so that Harry's girlfriend Marion, a fashion designer, can open a clothing store. Meanwhile, Harry's mother Sarah is invited to appear on a TV show, which inspires her to try and lose weight. She begins taking amphetamines to control her appetite, which causes her to hallucinate. Tyrone is arrested and Harry has to bail him out, and there is soon a heroin shortage in New York City. To get the money needed to buy more drugs, Harry suggests Marion has sex with her psychiatrist. She gets the money, but Harry and Tyrone are unable to buy more drugs. They head to Miami with a plan to get heroin, but Harry's arm becomes gangrene, and when they stop for medical treatment, Harry and Tyrone are arrested. Marion, desperate to feed her addiction, turns to a pimp named Big Tim, and when Sarah goes to the TV audience agency, she is admitted to a psychiatric ward where she is given electroshock therapy. In the end, Sarah becomes catatonic, Marion is willing to do whatever Big Tim demands, Tyrone is subjected to hard physical labor under the watch of racist prison guards, and Harry has his gangrenous arm amputated.
So not a very happy ending, but how did the movie do at the box office, James?
Well, the film came out on October 6, 2000. It had a $4.5 million budget, a pretty big step up from his first film, Pi. And it didn't really have a huge, big opening anywhere.
At the end, it did.
that was a very poor taste joke, but it was very funny.
Thanks.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
But it wound up being $3.5 million domestically and $7.3 million worldwide. So I don't really know about the marketing of this film. It's kind of more the indie vibe rather than your big summer blockbuster. But it probably made enough money that it got him the clout to later make The Wrestler and Black Swan and Noah and his bigger budget films.
He's very dark. I mean, we can say across the board his movies are not uplifting.
Yeah, they explore some dark themes. And also, just having watched Pi not that long ago, this movie, like Pi, he does a lot of camera tricks. I don't like the word tricks. Tricks sounds bad.
The cinematography is interesting.
Yeah.
And relevant.
Yes. And there's a lot of really, really fast edits. You can kind of see that MTV generation kind of editing style. I think the point of the really fast edits and putting the camera on the people and, doing the really quick sound effects with the...
Flick, bubble, snort, whoosh. Ah.
Exactly. And the food disappearing on the plate, the jump cuts and everything. It's meant to feel disorienting.
Yes.
It's meant to evoke the feeling of these people are on drugs and their worldview is warped. I personally didn't really mind much of it except for the split screen. I felt like the split screen was overused.
Some of them. When Marion and Harry are kind of lying in bed next to each other, it wasn't necessary.
Yes.
This is one of those films that I had seen so many references to this film that I didn't realize I was seeing references to this film.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite example was this joke from The Simpsons when Homer has what's the crusty, the equivalent of the McRib?
I don't know.
Whatever it is. When Homer first takes a bite of it, his pupils dilate and you see, instead of blood rushing through the blood vessels, I think it's like fat globules rush into his blood vessels, and it's the exact same sequence,
awesome.
and it's hysterical.
One thing I will absolutely touch on with this, the score for this movie. I have always been obsessed with it. I work out to it sometimes.
Really?
Oh yeah. It is so frantic. And I think the way it sets the pace in the beginning of the movie specifically, first of all, you hear the orchestra warming up.
Right.
So it's chaos. It's not all organized yet. And then the score is just so strings heavy, which for me always represents sorrow and sadness. And I really do think that the soundtrack makes this movie exponentially better than it already is.
In a movie called Requiem for a Dream, it makes sense that it would have such a powerful score and that the score really is driving to the movie's climax. It was Clint Mansell who did the soundtrack. He worked with Aronofsky on Pi. He went on to work with him for many of Aronofsky's later movies, The Fountain, The Wrestler, Black Swan, Noah. Also, the main theme of Requiem for a Dream, the motif,
Yes.
Lux Eterna, that's like been used in a lot of other
Yes.
movies and trailers and video games and things like that.
Yes, and there's all kinds of like BPM remixes and stuff like that too. I'm telling you, it's a great workout song.
Okay, what BPM do you work out to
Whatever Peloton tells me, don't be a smartass.
it? James, thoughts on soundtrack?
I thought it was perfectly fine. Yeah, I wouldn't say that was the part that really captured my attention, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
We effectively start with the Juice Bites Happy intro, and we don't really know what we're looking at. And then the next scene is Sarah in the closet hiding from her son, who's attempting to steal her TV again so he can pawn it for $20 to go get drugs.
So they pawn this TV and give it to this
Mr. Rabinowitz.
Hector Salamanca
Yes.
from Breaking Bad.
fantastic actor from so many things. I knew him from Oz, fantastic HBO show. And then the mother goes over to Mr. Salamanca,
Rabinowitz.
yeah. She gets the TV back, etc. And I feel like there's almost this kind of game where at first it's like she doesn't want to give her son money, but she's letting him have money through this little song and dance of the TV. It's silly. It could be the same thing as any other bad habit at this point.
That's fair. I mean, but you can tell Sarah says to Harry, she says, the chains aren't for you, Harry, they're for the robbers. Well, clearly this is not the first rodeo.
Yes.
And to the point where Mr. Rabinowitz calls Harry a gonif. And he's kind of like the only one who's kind of noticing what's going on, because clearly this happens a lot. And she says, well, he's my only child. He's all I have. So to speak to that, it's kind of like a roundabout way, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not like she's accepting of it, because she has the chain and she's hiding in the closet speaking to herself and her dead husband and saying everything's going to be okay.
They do the song and dance with the TV and they get a little money.
And they wheel it past her friends who are all sitting outside sunning themselves.
Right, exactly.
So they know what's going on. They've seen it before.
But so they decided to start dealing, Tyrone and Harry. And Tyrone seems to be more of the brains of the operation, because he's the one who says that they should deal. He's the one who's like noticing the cop when they get the hot dog and kind of telling him to act casual. He's the one who goes to the other drug dealer and he's there in the shootout. Yeah, the deaf guy, and then there's the shootout with the Italian mobsters. And I'm guessing there's a reason that it's only Tyrone who goes to that meeting, because he's the one who kind of has his shit together more. I don't think that means that he's really smart. I think it might just be more that Harry is just dumber, because, later on in the movie, when, because of that gang warfare thing, there's no heroin in New York. I mean, no, there's gotta be some heroin in New York City. Maybe the usual guys are out, but I don't know, right? Like, try a little harder?
I mean, I don't think there's heroin dispensaries.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, if you're really motivated to find it, I feel like they could probably maybe leave Brooklyn and go into some other boroughs. I don't know.
Well, and we forgot to mention who Tyrone is played by.
Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, Marlon Wayans, in, as far as I know, up until maybe recently, his only really dramatic role, and I have to say he carried it pretty well, considering he's not the hugest character in it. He's probably one of the smallest roles out of the main four, but
yeah,
he does a really good job with that. And actually, when I was looking up trivia, when they were playing with the prop gun, Marlon Wayans got hit in the head during the keep away, and he actually he got hurt. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, but yeah, he did get hurt with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is around the time of In Living Color in the early 90s and Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
Is this before or after White Chicks?
I think White Chicks was later. Scary Movie also comes out in 2000. So, yeah, I mean, Marlon Wayans is known as a comic actor.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I was surprised seeing him in this role. Of the four main characters, we probably spend the least amount of time with him. Mm-hmm. But I think Marlon Wayans does a great job with the role. Harry, the relationship with him and Marion It's really sweet. It does seem like they have known each other for a very long time. Did they say that they were childhood sweethearts?
Sarah, so when Harry goes to visit his mother, Sarah, she is asking him for a grandbaby and, just telling him to meet a nice girl and have a child. And he said, I have a nice girl. And she said, who? And she knew them. He said Marion Silver. And, her father owns some store in the garment district, which speaks
Right.
to her having the interest in fashion or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, it insinuates that in their little Jewish Brooklyn enclave, they have crossed paths or they grew up together or something. Because mom was familiar. Sarah was familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not a heroine relationship of two junkies that got together.
Right.
There's obvious, genuine emotion and compassion.
Yes.
And, it's interesting because every one of these characters has a way out. Yeah, they're all doing drugs in the beginning, but everything is kind of going okay for all of them, and they almost have their out. I'd say it's the part where they're doing their drug selling business and the shoebox is filling up with money.
Right.
You don't see them mostly like strung out. You see them looking at stores, like storefronts for this fashion store. And Ellen Burstyn's character, the dress sizes are getting smaller and smaller, and she's moving up and up in the social circle. Things are going well for everyone, and that's the point when they all have an ability that they could get out. They go to their doctor to try to get off the amphetamines or try to complain of the side effects. There's that first shootout, and maybe let's just get out. We have some money. You're screaming at the characters like, you did something bad, but you have an out. Like, just take it. Like, you're Icarus flying too close to the sun, and it's all going to come crashing down.
It is super frustrating. I mean, 3 out of the 4, so Harry, Marion, and Tyrone are effectively victims of their own circumstance. Sarah's a little different. Sarah, she was a depressed widow. Her 2 vices, right? Because the whole movie is about an addiction or a vice or lifestyle or habit or however you want to say it. I mean, I think for this movie, it's addiction. But
Yeah.
her 2 things were TV and eating. And so she gets this phone call. What I think is hilarious is it's not even a TV show. It's an infomercial.
Yeah, what is this show? What is the Tappy Tibbins show? Is it a televangelist? Is it a game show? Like, what's the deal with him?
I think he's almost like a Tony Robbins type of person, like
Yeah.
motivational. I mean, most of it wasn't improvised by Christopher McDonald, which you got to give him props for. I mean, he did it within a day and he got it all done on his end. But so his 3 points for a happier life, it's no red meat, no refined sugar, and then they don't say the third one, but it's written on a whiteboard behind him, no orgasm. So that one's written, not stated. So it's really just an infomercial. But because she doesn't have a whole heap going on, which we see between her hanging out kind of outside with her friends and checking the mail, right? Isn't that like an old person trope? They sit around and wait for the mail. Well, she does.
Right.
After she's informed that she's going to be on the television on this infomercial.
When they call and say that she's going to be on TV, do they say that specific show?
I don't think they do, actually.
I never worked on those kinds of TV shows, but when I worked at NBC, if you wanted to go see Late Night with Conan O'Brien, you had to call NBC to get the tickets. No one's calling you to tell you that you can be on the show. It's not really like an audience. I mean, I was kind of confused by the whole thing. Jumping back to the 2 points that he says of his 3-step program, apparently in an earlier version of the script, the 3rd rule was no pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Which I think is narratively maybe more interesting. It's interesting that she's so obsessed with this TV show, she watches it all the goddamn time.
I know.
And she never gets to the 3rd rule. Like, there's 3 things and she only hears 1 and 2 over and over and over and over again. But I do think that could have been a little bit of a kicker at the end where she finally hears Tappy Tibbins say rule number 3 and it's no drugs.
Right.
Then it's like, oh, God damn it. I wish I had heard that earlier. I might push back on you a little bit, Sam, that she's not a victim of her circumstance. I think she is to a point. She makes some bad decisions.
So first of all, I'm curious about, and I have this in my notes, what James thinks about this as a doctor, what you think of the doctor. I mean, I will tell you, as somebody who is prescribed Adderall, Okay, so the burst of energy and the not wanting to eat are factual. Do I hallucinate the refrigerator dancing with me? I don't. Do I get in my own head and dance around with clown makeup on? No, I do not. But I'm also being monitored. You know, I go to doctors and they check up on me. You see, when she's going to the doctor, at a point, the voices are getting sped up and it's very frantic on the subway. I think that if you're trying to lose weight and it's being managed and her whole goal is the red dress that her husband loved her in on TV, the doctors aren't really giving a shit though.
She walks in and says, I need to lose weight. I think he says something like, I can see that or something, but he never even takes his eyes off of the clipboard. He's only looking down. And I do think it is worth getting your perspective as a doctor, James, because I don't think there's any good doctors in this movie.
The nurse at the end.
Oh, okay, a nurse. But yeah. The doctors in this movie do suck.
Yes, and we'll definitely talk about that nurse, whether that nurse even existed. I mean, she was dressed in a 1950s nurse. It's like the kind of outfit you'd wear for a Halloween costume.
Like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
With the thing on the head. Yeah, exactly. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest nurses.
No, you wear Halloween costumes that are sexy. That's like, if you're going to be a nurse.
Right.
But I agree completely. These doctors are absolutely horrible. If not 100%, everything that happens to Sarah, it's 99% the fault of these doctors. They don't, you're right, Al, they don't look at her. She is expressing her concern and just take this prescription. It was awful seeing that these doctors were doing this because
So
it's completely
unethical.
their fault.
Yeah.
And the other unethical doctor, right?
With the shock therapy?
That one. Oh, so there's a whole bunch. So I was thinking the therapist.
Oh, I thought you meant the Southern doctor that calls the police. If there's some duty that he has to call the police, fine. But get that guy an IV and get that vancomycin in there. The police can wait another 2 minutes before you get that. He goes, I'll be right back. And it's like, no, get that IV in there. Like, minutes count here.
Yes, that doctor is unethical for just having Harry and Tyrone arrested. What's the charge? Like, using drugs is illegal, but I would think that if they're in a hospital, they're seeking medical treatment, wouldn't they just give them the medical treatment? There's no possession, right? Because they have no heroin at that point. Or maybe they had a little bit on them because they do shoot up in the car. Because then they're in jail for the rest of the movie.
You're a mandated reporter if you're a doctor, just like you're a teacher.
I don't think you need to report every person you suspect having done any cocaine. I think it depends on the jurisdiction. I think it depends where you are. I think it's implied it's a southern town where they get arrested. They're on their way to Miami. So it could be one of these dry counties that if you even look at drugs, like, that's a year in jail. And he knows he came in with that black guy. So maybe there's a little racism.
I'm sure. Okay, so beyond Sarah's doctor and beyond the doctors who end up, quote unquote, taking care of Tyrone and mostly Harry, you have Marion who's seeing a therapist. If we want to talk about ethics, oh my God, he's banging one of his clients and paying her for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Arnold is played by Sean Gillette, who is the lead in Pi, the guy who is having the hallucinations.
Oh. You see her have dinner with the therapist the first time. And you know that they have some kind of torrid past that Harry is aware of, but not thrilled. Obviously, he's jealous at some point.
Sure.
And then later on, when it becomes the fall, when they tell you fall, they change the season, you see Marion's addiction getting worse. You see their relationship kind of starting to struggle. You see her go outside and vomit after they had sex. And I believe that was a camera strapped to her.
Yeah, they do a lot of that.
Yeah. And you can see that time was kind of out of desperation. And then you suddenly kind of see a shift in that as her addiction worsens.
They call that the Overton window. Mm-hmm. It shifts, right? Once you decide that you can have sex for money, then you are shifting that window of what is acceptable. And we see how far it shifts. But also what she's doing at that moment is complicated, right? So she's having sex with Arnold for money that then she is going to give to Harry. Harry and Tyrone are going to take that money and use it to buy some overpriced heroin from this one guy who's coming in, and they're going to use that heroin that they buy. They're going to cut it and sell it so that they'll have more money. The logic all flows from a A to B to C perspective, but there's so many steps in there. Something could go wrong. Of course, that is what happens. Something does go wrong with the plan. You can see how it's going to be easier later to skip all of those steps and just have sex for drugs. Do the sex act and then be handed the drug. I mean, God, that's simpler. That's quicker. It's easier. And yeah, it's not surprising that that is what happens when she goes to Big Tim, played by Keith David. You see it coming, but it's no less tragic that that's what happens.
Right. So when they're at that supermarket scene,
Wallbaums.
Yes, they did say Wallbaums.
They call it Wallbaums, which is
our mom knew, like Debbie Wallbaum.
Yeah, that's a very Long Island, Metro New York.
Which also kind of gives me a time frame thing, but in 2000, I don't know. I don't think they were still around.
No, they definitely were. I remember seeing one when I lived in Stony Brook in the 2000 teens. There was a Wallbaums. Now, it went out of business since then.
There were fewer and fewer, but yeah, I can believe that.
First of all, those were all real drug addicts as extras because he wanted to show the desperation and the pushing and the shoving, which I wonder what the casting for that was, right? Like, hey, heroin addicts, come be in a movie and pretend you're heroin addicts. Like, okay.
Right, and they're so desperate because they think they're really getting heroin.
Or
and then
paid? Yeah, I don't know.
Don't?
Well, they're going to get extra money.
Right. Did you guys notice that they don't give you a time period other than the season, so we don't really know what the years are. It could be current, it might not be. I mean, there's no cell phones. Sarah's TV, it looks like it's from 1951, but they don't really tell us a time period.
That's true. I guess I just assumed it was contemporary,
Probably.
late 90s, 2000.
And also, Aronofsky told both Jared Leto and Marlon Wayans no sex and no sugar until the shoot was over. So they really had to cut themselves off. And I mean, Leto, even further with Jared Leto, he's a method actor and he ended up living on the streets as Pratt.
Yeah, although I've seen him in subsequent movies and he has two arms.
Okay.
So I guess he's not that method.
No.
But yeah, so Sarah goes to the TV agency because she just needs to know when she's going to be on TV. She looks very, very unwell. They're right to call someone. She ends up in a psychiatric ward where she meets another awful, shitty doctor who just says, hey, we're thinking of maybe giving you some ECT just to put your John Hancock here. Doesn't say what ECT is. She's clearly
not of sound mind.
Right. She cannot agree to that.
I love what they do with her appearance over time, right? Like she first finds out she's going to be on the show and her one friend who's so supportive is dyeing her hair. Today the hair, tomorrow the sun.
Right.
And she's awesome. And then over time, as we go from the summer transitioning into the fall, you see the appearance starting to fade. She is losing weight, but her hair roots are showing. And actually, so they made, listen to all this, with the makeup for her. 2 fat suits, one for gaining 40 pounds. The other one was for losing 20. She had 9 wigs and 4 necks.
Right.
So they put a lot of effort. This is almost like the Penguin status, like a lot, or Nutty Professor or Norbit, which is my other favorite, Marlon Wayans.
And I wonder if this is what he'd later do very famously with Brendan Fraser in The Whale.
Yes, great movie. And Ellen Burstyn said this was her hardest role, including The Exorcist, which is when she was like flung against walls. She said this was so much harder. And one more piece of stupid trivia, but actually I like this one. When they were recording Sarah, Ellen Burstyn, speaking to Jared Leto and saying, because he's like, why are you so bent on being on TV? And he said, she tells him it's a reason to get up in the morning. You're my only child. You're not home anymore. And Aronofsky noticed after they cut that one scene that it was a little bit shaky because the cameraman was crying.
Yeah, she drifts a little bit out of frame.
Yes.
And that take is the one that's in the movie.
Yeah.
You can see it and it does look a little wrong, but it's because the cameraman had that real emotion. It's powerful.
She didn't win the Academy Award. She should have. I believe she lost to Julia Roberts for Erin Brockovich.
Right.
But I felt she very much deserved it for this movie.
Right. her story ends where she's catatonic. Her friends come to visit her, which is sweet, but
Yes.
they're crying as soon as they leave because they're visiting her, but she's not there.
Right.
And Harry and Tyrone are in a prison somewhere in the South. Harry doesn't have an arm, and Marion is gonna be around to do whatever Big Tim tells her to do.
She's the entertainment. But I also like the way it's shot. So we see Sarah getting the electroshock therapy, and then Tyrone mixing whatever the concrete is or whatever. Can you see me? Can you hear me? And then they shoot to Sarah with the bzzz. And then they show the sex party where Marion is the entertainment. And the one old guy up front, and this is probably the most quotable line from this movie, is ass to ass. And you can use your imagination with what that means or not. But Jennifer Connelly definitely grew up from Labyrinth.
I was thinking along those lines, she calls Arnold, she calls Big Tim. Maybe she should have just called Jareth the Goblin King.
She really could have.
I mean, he's not great in Labyrinth, but
He's better.
he didn't make her do ass to ass.
No, he did not make her do ass to ass. He would have.
Maybe.
Leggings to ass.
Uh,
Hot piece to ass.
It kind of has the feeling of like this underground dog, cockfight, dog fight kind of thing where
Yeah.
there are these despicable characters that are in the audience. Maybe they're betting, maybe they're just there to watch, maybe they're having sex with them afterwards. I'm guessing that she is there for a lot longer than the 5 minutes that this little song is going on.
But I like the cutaways. I like the rotation of the two. And again, with the music, it's very frantic. It's very strings heavy. And especially when they show the
Right.
shock, and it's just this shot. And then Marion doing ass to ass. And Sarah getting electroshock therapy. And then the two in jail. And then Marion is on the phone with Harry towards the end of the movie. And she says, can you come home? Can you come home today? And that to me was almost like the little girl. Just she knows what she did. She knows she's not been on her best behavior, but she does love him.
Right. And he says yes.
Yeah.
He lies to her and says, yes, I will be home today, which is in a way cruel that he's lying to her, but also he can't tell her the truth, because if he says, no, I'm not coming home, she's going to go right out to Big Tim.
Mm-hmm.
If he says, yeah, I'll be home later, maybe she waits at home and then maybe passes out and doesn't go over there. That's the best possible situation. I mean, she's going to end up there eventually, and Harry doesn't necessarily know that, but he knows that's basically all he can do is just kind of give her the tiniest bit of hope that he'll be home soon. And he's not coming home. He knows.
He was also detoxing off of heroin, which again, I liked how they showed that with him and Tyrone, visibly sick and detoxing after, and they're still making them do manual labor. And so for me with this movie, and I read this somewhere and I 100% agree. So this is a monster movie for sure.
Ooh.
But the monsters are the drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
I did read something where Darren Aronofsky said that it's not just about drugs, it's about addiction.
Yep.
And you can be addicted to anything. And obviously that's true.
Yep.
But I do feel like this movie is about drug addiction specifically, because all four of your main characters are addicted to drugs. And you could have another character who's addicted to shopping or gambling or video games or whatever.
Facebook, we have a cousin like that.
Sure. But if you want to show that in your movie and make it be about addiction in a bigger picture sense, sure, go for it. Why not? But this movie is really about people who are addicted to drugs.
But again, for me, yes, 3 out of 4 are. But for Sarah Ellen Burstyn's character, that it just holds such a special place to me, because again, she didn't look for this outcome where the other 3 knew what they were getting into. She didn't. She was a lot more naive than they were.
She was still taking drugs, and she was warned. Her son warned her to stop taking those drugs.
But the doctors.
Yeah. But yeah, the movie ends with these 4 drug addicts curled up in the fetal position.
Yep.
Their lives aren't great. I guess I'll just ask you, Sam, do you think that Requiem for a Dream stands the test of time?
So, to me, this movie is cinema. This is cinema. The way it's shot, it was 2,000 cuts used to make the viewer feel disoriented. And the music, once again, totally makes you feel like you're in their heads.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes you think. It's a tragic ending, man. Nobody wins. Absolutely nobody wins. There's no reprieve. There's really very little, if any, comic relief in this movie. I absolutely think it stands the test of time. I hate to say it. Addiction is crazy, specifically the region we live in. I mean, it's kind of been, and this is awful to say, but there's been the conversation where it's like you hear about somebody younger passing away and was it a car accident or the other Long Island way, which is a really messed up way to say it, but I've heard it and people understand what that means. You know, if it's a younger person, very well could be, especially out here, fentanyl poisoning.
It's not the Long Island way, unfortunately.
It's a United States problem.
We've all seen those videos and the pictures of like the zombies just like standing and frozen on the street somewhere after they shut up or in between shooting up.
And a lot of times it's not them. It's just a suburban
That's
mom
true.
or dad. Like Sarah
But
in this film.
that's why I have such a soft spot for her, because again, she just wanted to be on TV in her pretty red dress for Seymour, even though Seymour's been dead 1,000 years. And she ended up listening to doctors and taking a pill per meal. You know, it was what, the purple, the blue, and the pink or something. And then it led her down a slippery slope. But whereas I think the other three, again, those were illicit drugs. They definitely knew what they were doing. Marion, the most, every one of her choices was super deliberate. Yeah, I think this movie will always stand up for sure, because unfortunately addiction is not probably going anywhere.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, Sam, I agree with you. This is a very well-made film. This is un film de Darren Aronofsky. This is cinema. It doesn't do too much hyperbole. I mean, they're not shooting up every 7-Eleven trying to make money. You know, that they're trying to sell little drugs. You know, maybe this woman's she's doing a little prostitution, and this woman Sarah, she's seeking out a doctor, and these are real life things. And you called it the Long Island death, but unfortunately, it's everywhere because it's so real. If you think the film is going to be one of these, just visually, you're just going to want to vomit afterwards. No, it's not at all like that. Will you be thinking about it for days afterwards? Absolutely. That's the sign of a good film. Often it's really sticking with me. I don't know if I want to see this film again, but I would see this film if it did come on. It really stands the test of time, and there's not much 25 years later that you would change about this film. Yeah, stands test of time. 2 out of 2, Al. What do you think? Is this a clean sweep?
Yes, I think that this movie does stand the test of time for the reasons already explained. Addiction is still a real thing. Opioids are unfortunately still very prevalent. This movie does a very effective job at showing the horrors of drug use. And I think Aronofsky is probably wise to show the characters doing okay in the first act of the movie, so that you might watch it and think, oh yeah, okay, maybe, yeah, you have a little fun with some heroin, big deal. And then you see the big deal. You know, because if it was just misery, doom and gloom, start to finish, then it would feel like a health teacher wagging their finger at you. This is all the bad stuff. It shows you how it seems great at first, but it ain't. You're going to end up doing ass to ass. You're going to end up losing an arm. You're going to end up in prison. You're going to end up curled up in the fetal position. Shit's going to get bad. The only thing about this movie that I was thinking maybe doesn't stand the test of time was the prescribing of amphetamines to lose weight. I have no idea if that still happens or how common it is. I just feel like nowadays it would be Ozempic.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
If Sarah was saying, I need to lose some weight before going on TV, maybe 25 years ago, they say, go to this doctor, he'll give you amphetamines. Nowadays, they would just give you Ozempic, which, to my knowledge, does not lead to hallucinations. I don't think that is a side effect of Ozempic. I really don't know much about that drug or the other GLP-1s. I believe that they're safer than these amphetamines. That's a small quibble because, I think you can just look at it that the movie's still about addiction and drug use, and if you want to lose weight, that can take you to some dark places, whether it's amphetamines or disordered eating or whatever it might be. So I agree. I think this movie definitely stands the test of time. It's a tough watch, but an important watch. I agree with you.
I thought of one other relevant thing, which is crazy, but you made me think of it, James, when you were saying, the ass to ass party or whatever, how it was probably a long time. I immediately think of the Diddy case. How Diddy had all these parties and some of these women were paid for their services, and we know drugs were involved. So really, when we're talking about standing up to the test of time and relevance, sure, those types of things absolutely still go on.
Right. But Sam, thank you for coming back on the show to talk about this depressing but important movie.
Last time was the Sesame Street movie. What do you want from me? Before we alternate, right? It was half-baked fun drug movie, and then it was American Psycho. Okay, that one's pretty crazy. And then the most wholesome thing in the world, Follow That Bird, Jim Henson flick. All right, and then we got a little bit darker. But next time I come in, maybe, I don't know, we'll think of something light and sweet.
You're always welcome. You've been on a lot this year, but we'll always have you back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm always down to do whichever movie and give my various insights.
Sure. And you have picked a variety of movies, so I'm sure that whatever you want to come on to discuss next will be an interesting pick.
We'll give it a lot of thought.
There you go. I know that you will.
Thank you.
But thank you again for joining us, Sam. That's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we are going to be joined by our friends Matt and Allie from the Good Movie, Bad Movie podcast. They are joining us to talk about the movie Bedazzled. That also came out in 2000. Elizabeth Hurley, Brendan Fraser. I saw that movie in the theater, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. I'm looking forward to that episode. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We are at Tested Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Send us a message. Let us know what you think about Requiem for a Dream. We love hearing from you. And we'll see you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.